Sacred Heart Basilica, the new generalate of the Salesian congregation. And now you are looking at the golden statue of Sacred Heart established, installed right on top of the basilica, the tower, bell tower of the basilica. And from there, I invoke the blessings of the Sacred Heart of Jesus to bless all of you, because also we are in the month of June, which is dedicated in a special way to the Sacred Heart of Jesus, and we will be celebrating the Feast of the Sacred Heart in the third week of this month. I speak to you from the generalate where the rector major and the general council live, and we are just next to the central railway station of Rome. This is a beautiful location, crowded and very easy for convenient travel to various places. Of course, these days it is a little empty because of the coronavirus lockdown, but at the same time things are opening up slowly, and I'm glad to greet you from this place, giving you an idea from where I am sharing these reflections with you. This chapel has a beautiful painting in glass that portrays Don Bosco in the act of writing his letter, the letter of 10th May 1884. It's a beautiful picture, very significant. Don Bosco sits here writing his letter, and he is surrounded by some scenes from his oratory because he was concerned about the oratory. And his main concern was to define what kind of solutions he wanted to be there in his oratory for the young people of his times. So this, starting from this chapel and looking at this picture, I consider this a very charismatically significant way of beginning this reflection. And I wish that all of you enjoy this retreat. And as I said, the main thrust and the theme of this retreat will be the characteristics or the characteristics of the profile of the new Salesian that is needed for the young people of today. What kind of solutions? Therefore, we will be talking about various ways in which we have to renew ourselves, change our paradigms of thinking, living, and working. Enjoy the retreat. In this first talk, dear confreres and sisters, I would like to give you some preliminary ideas as to how to make a good retreat. In the first place, your Vice Provincial Father Augustine Selam had asked me to choose GC28 as the main inspiration for this retreat, and I have tried to do so. But at the same time, I have not exactly stuck to the themes of the chapter itself, also because we do not have a complete chapter document, and most of you have already read what has come out of this chapter. Therefore, while generally sticking to the main theme, I have taken the liberty to choose various themes that will make us think along the theme of the chapter itself. You know that the main theme of the chapter is what kind of solutions for the young people of today. So basically the chapter is first of all asking us to examine ourselves and see whether our profile as Salesians today fits the challenges or the needs of the young people. And for this, we need to examine also the challenges that the young people face today. We cannot have an old idea of youngsters, and we cannot give solutions to their new problems with our old methodologies and with our old profile as a Salesian. Therefore, we need to change. And thirdly, the chapter proposes one very important idea. That is, the main thing that the young people today expect from Salesians is that we accompany them in the spirit of the preventive system, which means presence with them, and we walk along with them rather than be their masters, be their solution givers, etc. we accompany them, and this is also the main theme of the recent Synod of Bishops on young people and vocational guidance, etc. Vocational guidance is the main theme, and we read it in the document Christus Vivit of Pope Francis. And finally, the chapter also deals with whom we have to carry out this mission. That is with the educative pastoral community, with lay mission partners, with families, and every other agency that is doing good to young people. And therefore, this is the basic line that runs through the various talks that I have chosen. I have chosen also to share some ideas with you, primarily trying to make you think differently, not to just repeat the ideas that have been always repeated. The basic ideas are good, but we need something new, or let us say something slightly different, in order to provoke us to think in new ways. And I have tried to do that, and I hope I have succeeded in that. It is up to you to judge at the end of the talks whether that has inspired you or not. Saint Teresa of Avila used to say that among the various impediments for making a good retreat is the preacher. The preacher could be a help, but he could also be a hindrance. In the sense, he preaches what he thinks is best. That may not be exactly what you need in your present given situation. And therefore, you need to take my talks with a certain amount of freedom. If they help you, you listen to them and you make use of them for your reflection. And if they don't, make your own retreat. You are primarily responsible for your retreat, and the quality of your retreat depends on you, not exactly on the preacher. And I am sending for every talk a little video like this, because direct talking is always better than merely giving you a text to read. At the same time, for every talk, I am also sending a paper with some notes, basically putting down there the ideas that I have spoken, or maybe some extra ideas there for you to reflect. And therefore, the talks and the sheets that you will be given, or the files that you will be given, should go together. After listening to the talk, you can look through the paper or the file on your computer, so that you can point by point take them back for your reflection. In addition, I am also sending you some gospel stories. This is my special, in the sense I have taken to storytelling the gospel, because the gospels are so rich and beautiful that when we often read them, we just think of what we have always thought of. We do not pay attention to special aspects of the life of the Lord Jesus, the attitudes of the apostles, or hidden meanings, or some details that are in the gospel. Therefore, recently I have published 2 volumes of a book called The Gospel Stories as You Never Heard Before. It is not a kind of apocrypha. I am not creating stories, but I am only trying to re-narrate the gospel stories, some incidents, some parables, etc., in order to bring out the meaning of these stories, these incidents much better, and to attract the attention of the reader or the listener. And I'm sending several of these stories to you, maybe at least 15, 16 of them, on various topics, such as contemplating on the person of Jesus himself, and about some meditations on Our Lady, on prayer, on religious life, on social themes, and some spiritual stories, and some other stories simply re-narrated in hopefully an attractive form for you to pay more attention and take a liking to reading the gospel and creating your own stories. I would like to share with you a few conditions for making a good retreat. First, you must have the conviction that this retreat is going to make a difference in your life. If you are convinced, you will do it well, and it will definitely make a difference in your life. Secondly, therefore, your motivation and personal responsibility for this retreat. This time you are also making this retreat alone. You are not in a group, and therefore you don't have to impress anybody, and therefore it is your responsibility to make this retreat well. Usually we Salesians during the retreat do some things which I would like to advise you to avoid. 3 Salesian vices during our retreats are usually we talk a lot, and we eat very good food, and we also sleep a lot. These 3 are enemies of spiritual life. This time you may not talk because you are alone, but you may be tempted to be active in social media. And good food and sleep also makes us dull, makes our mind and body dull, so that they are not helpful for spiritual, let's say, reawakening or meditation. I am not telling you to eat nutritious. I'm not telling you not to eat nutritious food, but when sleeping, eating, and talking, contacting other people are within a certain limit, we are likely to do the retreat much better. You are invited to spend the entire retreat in long periods of prayer. We Salesians pray very briefly. Even the usual prayers that we have, we try to shorten them, and therefore we have the habit, and we justify saying that we have a lot of things to do. But retreat is a time that we need to pray long, after the example of Jesus himself, who prayed long and even entire nights, as the Gospels say. He who was God needed to pray, and we much more, dear confreres. And organized prayers, if you have regular prayers, keep them simple and pray according to the wishes of your heart. You don't have to be bound by rules. Oh, I have to do this, I have to do that, etc., etc. And another advice that I would like to give you is to keep writing. Keep on writing whatever you reflect, whatever comes to your mind, the prayers that you say, the reflections that you make about your past, about your present conditions. Keep on writing as a spiritual diary. In two ways this is a big help. First, it keeps your mind fixed. It helps you to avoid distraction because you are writing down, your body also is going along with your mind. Secondly, at the end of the retreat, you will be surprised to find what a big spiritual treasure your own diary of these 6 days, maybe 100 pages you would have filled. And going back to read them would be a wonderful exercise also in the future. Let me also give you some exercises that may help you in prayer. First of all, these are exercises that I give whenever I preach retreats, because I find that these are methods that force us to sit down and let's say force our mind to concentrate on our spiritual life, on our history, on the Lord, on our communities, etc., etc. First exercise. You are free to do all of them or do any of them or not to do any of them. It is according to your wish. I am just making suggestions. First, write your salvation history. What do I mean by that? All history is salvation history. In the sense, it is a history of God's working in you. What is salvation history? It is the history of the Lord's working in the people of Israel and later in the life of Jesus and of the apostles. God has been constantly at work in your life, and therefore your life history is not merely your life history, it is your salvation history. That is seeing the finger of God in your life in various moments, regularly, also maybe in particular moments. You may like to put them down on paper, your salvation history. Another useful exercise along the same line is the attempt to write your own mysteries of the rosary. You know that there are four sections, four groups of mysteries with which we recite the rosary: the joyful, the sorrowful mysteries, the luminous mysteries, and also the glorious mysteries. Go through your life, maybe your entire life, or at least last 1 year, and try to put down what have been the sorrowful, the joyful mysteries in this period, your chosen period, or what have been the sorrowful mysteries, what have been the luminous or illuminating mysteries in your life, and what have been the glorious mysteries of your life of your life or in the past 1 year that you have chosen. Why do we call them mysteries? Any mystery is an inspiration or an event or something that happened in your life in which God's finger is there. That makes it a mystery. Mystery does not mean it's something that is hidden. It is God's working in your life. When we are able to see the touch of God in that particular event, that particular sickness, in that particular obedience, or in that particular difficulty, or in that particular glorification, that becomes a mystery. And when we see God's working in our life, we begin to understand that they are important moments in our life. Another exercise, a fourth exercise I suggest is a simple one. You can make a graph of your spiritual life for the past 1 year or for the past 6 years, whatever. That is, when have you been more serene in your spiritual life? When have been the moments of sorrow or sinfulness, the moments of temptation, the moments of conversion? How do you judge your own spiritual life? It is not easy to judge one's own spiritual life, but it is a good attempt to go through the year trying to see where have you been up, where have you been down. In two axes you can make this let's say this graph. Another exercise, a fifth exercise I suggest, is write a litany. Write a litany about your own salvation history. That is, what the Lord did to you or did not do to you in the past 1 year. Lord, who sent me to this place, have mercy on me. Lord, who gave me this trouble, I confide in you. Lord, you made my life difficult with this particular confrere or with this particular person, have mercy on me. Lord, who permitted me to fall into sin, have mercy on me. Or whatever it is, you can write a beautiful litany. Another exercise is choose what we in India call a mantra, a kind of brief ejaculation that attracts you as a phrase that you would like to say very often. You would like to repeat them very often throughout the day and anytime you would like. It is a mantra that will accompany you during the retreat and afterwards. Reflect and write down your central passions for good or even towards evil. What are those central passions that you have experienced throughout this year? Wanting to do good. You passionately wanted to do some good and you managed to do something. And also there are passions that pull you down that you are not able to avoid. You are falling back again and again on them. What are they? Make a little list. I don't think it will be a very big number, but it will be good to write that. Write down your success indicators. That is, what are the goals or activities or recognitions that you find are indicators of success in your life. Write also the popular success indicators in your province or in your society. Suppose you are a builder, then you are a successful Salesian. Suppose you have become a superior, then you are a successful Salesian or a sister. So this is how people will say, hey, Father, you are doing well. What do they mean by Father, you are doing well? Or you have an impression, I have not done well. Why? What are the indicators that tell me of success or failure in my Salesian life? And write down maybe your own mortuary letter. It's a traditional exercise given, but I still find it a very good exercise. Supposing you are given a chance to write sincerely your own mortuary letter, let's say theoretically after your death, posthumously, what would you like to write? What would you like to see in that? Put it down. It is a very beautiful exercise. And maybe another method you can follow also is choose 3 personalities from the Gospels or from the Bible who attract you more than the others, and write down the reasons why you are attracted towards these personalities more. They will reveal something about what you would like to be, what you are, and what you are not, etc. Maybe also the same exercise among the saints. You can choose 3 saints, maybe within the Salesian family list, or definitely also outside, because we Salesians are not the only holy people in the church. And great saints are highly inspired. For example, not because the Holy Father Pope Francis has Saint Francis as his inspirer. I also was highly attracted I am highly attracted by the personality of Saint Francis or Saint Philip Neri or people like that. So make a list of all of them. So I have just given you in this introductory talk a brief some ideas as to what kind of a retreat this could be, some motivations that you should have, and maybe some methodologies that you can follow. In the sheet of paper that you will be given, or let's say the computer file that you will be given, Word file that you will be given, these ideas are there. You can remember them and make use of them for your retreat. I wish all of you a wonderful and holy retreat of intimacy with the Lord, with Don Bosco, and with yourself. Before concluding this initial talk, dear confreres and sisters, I would like to share with you 10 important concerns of the congregation. That is, concerns of the congregation of the Rector Major and the General Council. These 10 points summarize a little bit the major, let's say, areas or thrust areas of attention and animation, and perhaps even worry by the General Council. I am speaking from my experience in the Council for so many years. Let me just mention them briefly. I mention these because these themes will be recurring again and again during the rest of the retreat, and therefore a kind of summary right in the beginning is useful for us. And do not take them as concerns of the congregation. They are also concerns of each confrere, community, and provinces. It's a kind of summarizing the major thrust areas where we have to improve. First, back to the basics. Returning to the call to witness to the radical nature of the gospel. It is not enough to be good people, but we need to be seen as radical people, men of God, signs of the kingdom. Our work is not enough. Our specific difference is in being spiritual persons, not merely good humanitarians. Even our prayer life could be rather superficial and formal as time passes. The second important concern is our ability to return and stay with the poor. This may look a little strange. Are we not with the poor, you may ask? But in the congregation we can notice in general, a general tendency of moving slowly towards the middle classes as target group. We may not be going to the rich, but towards the middle classes, we can notice that. It is not intentionally done. We don't do it purposely, but it happens maybe due to greater institutionalization and the general culture of wanting to offer the best. Therefore, we start for the poor. Slowly, the target group becomes richer and richer. We need to be constantly fighting, struggling against the current in order to return back constantly to the poor, because every now and then there are poorer and poorer classes of people are being produced by the society. We need to be with them rather than move with the current. Third important concern is a return to the fraternal community and its prophetic role in the society. Community problems and individualism are on the increase. We see more common living than communion in our communities. The community is not merely a residence, but it is a fundamental aspect of our mission. Community living is itself mission, and therefore we cannot think of community life as something that we need to live and then go out of community in order to do the mission. A fourth concern is about the vocations we receive and the vocation and formation. There is a crisis today in this everywhere among us. Those who wish to join us also often join us with mixed motivations, and those who are inside abandoning the congregation is very high. People seem to leave for silly reasons. And there is much fragility of vocation even in those who continue to remain in the congregation. The lack of vocation to the Salesian Brotherhood also tells us something, that many people just think of Salesian life as priestly life rather than as religious life. We need to return to the core of what is religious life. A fifth concern is resignification of our works. Redefinition or resignification of our works. Are we really faithful to the core values or goals of our mission? That is, to produce good Christians and honest citizens. Are we at least succeeding partially in this? The purpose of redesigning and even increasing numbers is to make sure that we are able to achieve these goals and not merely manage to run our institutions, and to make our mission meaningful, and also to make the finer aspects of our religious life like quality, reflection, sharing, and even proper rest, etc., more realistic. We need more numbers. In the rush for standards, results, and excellence, we could be just turning out to be any other type of institution. A sixth concern is transparency in administration. Total transparency is needed in our planning, in our intentions, in administration and finance. There should be a return to true poverty. Merely honest administration is not enough. Transparent administration, open administration, transparency with our stakeholders is needed, because only that increases our credibility. And the seventh concern is lay participation in our mission. It is important not only because we need more people to collaborate with us because we are becoming less, but the church is not merely clergy or religious. The church is the people of God. So when we all work together, we express our ecclesiality much more than merely when we run our institutions as clergy. Also, we need to counteract clericalism and dominance only by one group of people. Eighth concern, empowering the Salesian family. There are so many groups. Particularly, we need to empower the lay groups, because they can become our secular arms in the world. We think that we Salesians are the most important and we do the most amount of work. But the family is so vast today, and it is increasing, particularly the lay groups. The Salesian family is a way of multiplying our forces. We should spend energy and time to support them, qualify them, increase their numbers, etc. A ninth concern is the dwindling of true missionary spirit in the congregation. We need to reawaken the missionary zeal for missio ad gentes, ad vitam et ad exteram. Even in provinces where there are very few numbers, because going out is a sign that we are lively, and it increases our vocation. The Salesian should be ideally open not only to work for his own people, but to work anywhere where the church sends him. Finally, I think it is also very important. The 10th concern is maintaining a higher intellectual culture. According to me, there is a noticeable and serious decline in the intellectual standards of our confreres in general. There are, of course, many of them who are intellectually highly cultured and highly capable, But I'm speaking about the general trend. We do not research, we do not advocate, we do not lobby for the causes of the poor, but we remain mostly ground level workers and service providers. We must cultivate the ability to read the signs of the times, to strategize for solutions and come out with what is most effective. We should also be aware of what is happening around us and join important social forces like the United Nations, be part of sustainable development goals, etc., etc. So we need to continue to study and to keep up our intellectual standards because intelligence and spirit also go together. Just because we are going to study more, we are not going to become less spiritual. We need to be both at the same time. These are some of the concerns that you will see also return again and again in my other talks. But right in the beginning, I thought it will be useful to place before you these major concerns of the congregation today. Thank you.